Folks, hello and welcome to Talking Crit. Right now, it's Talking Crit without my once a week work spouse. We'll see if he comes in. But we do have the one and only Jim Kitchen. Jim, do we have you next week when you're at Gen Con?
So I think it'll be a stretch for me to try to do the show from Gen Con.
Yeah.
I think that things are going to be batshit crazy on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and so I just will say right now that I just don't think I can commit to that. If I can, I'll try to stop in, but
Yeah,
yeah.
no, don't worry. I just figured, we're like rotating co-hosts.
Yeah, well, and this is that time of year, right? Mike is for those of you tuning in. Mike is at Acon this week. Was at Glazer. They drove up from Texas and made it to Lake Geneva. Acon, it's their second year. It's the show that's centered around Gary Gygax's birthday, but it's also a week before Gen Con, and for someone like me, where Gen Con's a lot of what I have going on. This has been a tough week, a very busy week, and we're trying to get through all of it. So we'll talk about Gen Con later. I'll save it for later. But ACON's this weekend, and so if you
Yeah.
draw if you're within a reasonable driving distance of Lake Geneva, or maybe an unreasonable, try to find a way to get there. You have to support local shows. You have to support regional shows. Heidi and Eric Garland, I'm sorry, Heidi Gygax Garland and Eric Gygax Garland have done this show as a labor of love, and you should support your small local shows. Whatever you do, you should support your small local shows.
Definitely, definitely. Bob, by the way, thank you for your sympathies. I know you lost two dogs recently yourself. I was on phone. Yeah, last week was certainly pear shaped in the 10-car household. It was.
And I'm sorry, Eric. I was going to wait to talk about that till the end, but do you want to talk about it now?
Yeah, well, just real quick. We were on vacation in the Poconos, and our dog already. We knew she had uh, a bulging disc, but she was doing well. She seemed to be recovering from it, and she was happy and doing a lot of walking in the Poconos. We came back on Thursday. Sunday night, she started favoring her right back hip. The right leg was not working well, and by Monday morning, she was dragging herself. So we had emergency vet appointment Thursday. No, Monday. Thursday was a specialist, a neuro, and they thought everything was looking better, and then it went very south, very fast.
Uh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
yeah. So it was that was Saturday. So it was a week that I don't remember much of except for the low points, which sucks. Because when I really think about it, there were some pretty good high points in between all this. But yeah, it was just a bad week.
Well, I think Eric, all of us here, all of us watching this show, all of us commenting, and people like myself, I, the hardest part about owning a dog is that at some point the dog will cross the rainbow bridge.
Yeah.
And our dogs, I I had cats. I don't have cats anymore, but I would say that a dog is a completely different equation than a cat, and a dog loves you unconditionally. We don't deserve. I've joked forever about that wonderful pithy saying, "I'm trying to be half the person my dog thinks I am,"
Oh, I like
and
that.
and my dog, I've talked about before. My dog's a rescue dog, and I've tried to make sure I give her the best life she almost never had.
Right.
Um, but I'm so sorry, because dogs are an integral part of our lives. They
Yep.
love us unconditionally, and and I know how much you loved your dog. I know how much you cared about your dog. I know you didn't want your dog to suffer. I know
Yeah.
you didn't want your dog in pain, and you did all of the right things. Um, and that dog had, every dog is the greatest dog in the universe, and nobody's
Yep.
wrong. And your dog had an amazing life, and I'm just sorry. I'm very, very sorry.
Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
It means a lot to me. It means a lot to Rach. It was a tough week. But again, you make those decisions that you know are the right decisions, even though they suck.
Yes,
Oh, so
yes.
oh,
So let's see. Let's talk about some other stuff. So
yep.
so we're we're sort of what I always call the halfway point of the convention season, right? So end of June, start of July is about the
Okay, yeah,
halfway
it's
mark,
pretty much.
and we've got Origins, which is one of the bigger shows behind us. Acon, one of the smaller shows. We've got North Texas that's behind us, and we're getting ready for the big Wallapalooza Gen Con. Again, I'll talk about that in a little while. But we're also in the worst dog days of summer. You know, it's hot and you're tired, and you go outside and you come back in and you feel like you took a shower because you're just like all
Oh
damp.
God.
It's all the pits. But the fall is around the corner, and we all do a lot of gaming and such as it's coming. Gen Con used to be one of those places that you saw all the new products, all the big releases were coming, and they've stepped
Right.
away from that in a big way, which is unfortunate. Really, really unfortunate. But it's still been an interesting week. There's some more Diamond shenanigans because Diamond. The most interesting part, we had talked about Green Running. They seem to have hit sort of a plateau later, or they seem to have hit a plateau, and they're like still getting a few donations, but the last time I looked, they were from a couple of days ago, but they've still raised a fairly sizable amount of money. So they got a war chest.
Okay.
There are other publishers who have gone in collectively for lawsuits. A couple of the larger companies got an extension with the bankruptcy court for 2 days. I think Wednesday was the last day for filings, but they got an extension for 2 days into Friday. Interestingly, for some of you who may be familiar, so if you have not met me, you do not know that I am 6'3", and I am 6'3", and I think I was about 6'1" in about 8th or 9th grade, and I weighed 135 pounds. So if you can imagine a fence post in Levi's 501s, that's pretty much the image. But my first year at Gen Con in 1993, I had somebody introduce me to somebody from Fantagraphic Books, or no, Kitchen Sink Press. And I was introduced as the short Jim Kitchen, because there used to be a guy named Jim Kitchen. The Kitchen brothers actually started Kitchen Sink Press, and he was 6'7", and it is the only time in my entire life that I've ever been introduced as the short Jim Kitchen. So that was always one of my great memories of that. But Fantagraphics and some of the other publishers were all in for a lawsuit. They created sort of I won't say a class action, but several of them went together to try to get a rejoinder from the court. And so interestingly, Fantagraphics organized it, but was not part of the lawsuit, and I'm not sure why. I don't know exactly what's going on. But I think we're very early in this. I think it's going to be a knife fight in a phone booth for a while. We'll see. You know, Ty is in the comments, and Ty has spoken very eloquently about there's a critical phrase that needs to have been in the negotiated document. And if that's not there, I believe Ty, and now I don't pretend to be a practicing lawyer, but I believe Ty, the word is they're hooped. So we'll see if they're hooped or not. I think it's one of those things that's going to be very interesting. Let's see what other strange and weird news. Oh my God! The WotC Basic set has
$50
head with
$50
with the AI generated art. That's the thing that just gets me. Like,
wait! I missed the AI generated art part.
Oh, my friend. Oh, my friend.
Oh no! See, I just went. Who the hell is going to make an impulse buy of $50 to buy a gift for somebody or whatever for your kids? $20, yeah, it's an impulse buy. 50, that's a commitment.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. Yeah. Yep. So if you do a Google search, it'll come up. You should be able to see it. You should take a look for it and poke around. I have not seen the contents list. I didn't really get past the shenanigans of the cover art. a lot of people were talking about the cover. A lot of people were talking about the cover art, and I'm come on. I think we all want something we're never going to get. We all want art that's in a 1970s style. We all want we want something that evokes memories from 40 plus years ago, and I don't think we're going to get it.
No.
So don't hold your breath, folks. So I think if we talked about the contents list a few weeks ago. We actually did talk about the contents list, and it looks like it's more than what it has been, which is the simplest of card stock.
Right, but
$50.
$50. I mean, listen. All right, it's including pogs or whatever you want to call them, round counters.
Sure.
But Pathfinder Beginner Box 1 and 2 included that, and that was like $25.
Right.
It has character stand-ups. Well, that's just cardboard with a base. They've been doing that for 40 years. I mean, that's nothing to write home about. They're regurgitating Keep on the Borderland.
Hey, I don't mind that.
It's good, but I mean, and they're splitting it up into like multiple booklets. And by the way, I could not find on the Amazon listing or online what levels it covers, whether it's 1 to 3, 1 to 5. I don't know. I just don't. $50 is not a price point. You can't blame that on tariffs. That's not the cost of paper going up. That's the cost of D&D going up.
Yeah, I don't think that's wrong. I think there's a lot to unpack about this, and we just don't know. We don't know. I think the price points have all taken a jump, right? All the price points have taken a jump, and nobody's going to come back from that price point. Come on, like Target will order this. Target will have it on sale. It'll be 20% off at some point before the holidays. You have to keep an eye open. It's usually when board games go on sale. And then when they don't sell a lot of them, they'll put them at 50% off just after the holidays, and you stock up on them. Ask the guy who is sitting on about a half a dozen of the Stranger Things Dungeons & Dragons box set. I can tell you they go to half off after Christmas. So, I mean, most of us are not the target audience.
No.
It's 10 to 12-year-old kids who are going to see Stranger Things, the first half of Stranger Things new season in the fall, and they're going to be like, oh my God, that's so cool. And those are the kids you give a box set to for Christmas, because if you don't, you're Scrooge, and I don't want to talk to you. But we want it to be something it won't. I'm glad there's B2 in it, right? I want them to hear the word Briarch, or the words Briarch. I want all of that. I'm good with that. There's some things that are classic and let it go. I know it won't be B1 because they don't want to give Mike Carr any money. And they're not going to. I'm disappointed in the artwork on the cover just because it looks as fake as bad computer generated art looks. But what the hell? So nobody asked me. Ha ha ha.
Well, you're right. We're not the target audience per se, but we are, because that 10 to 12-year-old, like you said, is not going to be reaching into their own pocket and buying this. They're going to be looking at somebody our age to buy it.
Yep.
Aunts, uncles, grandparents, and parents, and a lot of them are going to balk at the idea of $50, even with inflation, even with it, because yes, when you can get the prior starter set and the essentials box for $37 as a set on Amazon, it's hard to justify the $50 price point. If I was a parent, I'd be going, oh, I can get you 2 boxes for less. I'll get you those.
Well, I guess it rolls out September 16th. There's a digital only, and a physical only box set. That's a terrible image. I hope that's not actually in the book, but what the hell? I'll save it. And
Hey.
God, that's just terrible. I'm afraid looking at that.
Kim says the dwarf on the box cover has no eyes.
The dwarf on the cover has no eyes. Well, that's exciting. So let's go to Wizards. I haven't been to the website for a while. I don't think they have my IP blocked. So let's take a look and see. Oh, they're still trying to make Exodus a thing. Okay, well, sure. Our games, Dungeons and Dragons. That's very exciting. All new starter set.
Ooh.
It's the sexy time here. Here we go. It's $54.99, and they claim that the retail price is $64.98. So if you pick up the end of Ultimate Bundle, you'll save $10. So you get the Caves of Chaos, the Keep on the Borderlands, a play guide, what look like some fartastic prints, little tokens, colorful. It looks about like what I would think it would look. What's included? Yes, the dwarf is so magically enthused that his eyes have gone a flamish yellow color. And there is a dragon on the cover, so let's all be happy about that. That's I'm very pleased about that. Here, I'll pass you a link. But there's this regrettable feast photo that I'm trying to understand why we have this image. I'm not sure why we have this image.
I think I found the link. Let's see if I can get it up.
You should pull up the website here. I'll just let's horrify our friends at home with this terrible image.
Oh, is that the right link? No.
Scroll down, you get it. It's pretty grisly. There, I texted it to you, so you should see it.
Okay.
Wow. Like it's like a happy-go-lucky dinner. You've got somebody playing a flute, somebody playing. Oh, there's a bard. Damn it. There's a bard.
I like bards. I'm sorry.
Well, I still judge you by that. I mean, it looks like a Ren Fair. It looks. Yeah. Okay, you can see the link. If you scroll down, you'll get to it. It's pretty painful. Keep going. Keep going down.
All right, hold on.
Oh, yes. It's like it genuinely is like a Ren Fair, right? My favorite take on a Ren Fair was any of you who are old enough to remember the comic by Evan Dworkin called Milk and Cheese. Milk and Cheese, Dairy Products Gone Bad. The single greatest thing they ever did. Keep scrolling. You'll hit it. I look forward to your audible groan. It's a pudgy owlbear. It's a fluffy owlbear. Don't pet the fluffy.
It doesn't look like a dangerous owlbear.
Keep going. There you go. There you go. Take a look at that. It's like a Ren Fair feast. I feel like I've paid my ridiculous amount of money, and I've gone to whatever it is where they serve you flagons of meat and food, and there's jousting. Medieval times. It looks like a bad advertisement for medieval times. So, yeah, your mileage may vary, but medieval times basic set is here for you.
Oh my God, that is horrible.
Come on. Again, it's not for us. It was never meant for us, and I accept that.
No,
right? But the owlbear, that is a plush owlbear, my friends. That is like the lazy boy of owlbears.
Yes, that's the owlbear.
It's padded in all the right spots, and it can get comfy.
Yeah, that's the owlbear. You don't ride into battle. You ride into town, and you just it's my cutie.
If you took that owlbear to a vet, they would put you on a restricted calorie diet.
And by the way, do you
should know you shouldn't get your owlbear that fat.
And do you see the caption? Battle fearsome beasts and become a legendary monster slayer.
He looks fearsome, like he's gonna roll over on you.
Yes.
My attack is my floof.
I love you. Feed it a few dead mice, and you're good to go.
When I lived in Calgary, we had owls that hung out on the chimney, and they would swoop into the horse pasture behind us, and they would grab mice, and then they would bring them back to the chimney, and they would eat them, and then they would poop little skeletons all over my deck, and I'd have to clean it, and I'd just be like, "Yarr!" So I feel like there's there's a vignette there some miniature company needs to do where you have an owlbear sitting on a tree pooping out skeletons of hapless adventurers. But God, that's a fat owlbear, man. Like,
That's a plush toy.
I now identify as a fat owlbear. That's my problem, right? I'm like, oh, I'm fluffy. I'm a fat owlbear. So whatever.
I mean, honestly, that owlbear, it looks like something you're gonna have on your bed. You're here. I'm gonna give it to my 4-year-old. Here's your new stuffed animal. I won it in one of the Crane games. Look,
I don't take the fat owlbear seriously because I feel like that's the owlbear that just rolled out of its cave at the end of hibernation. And it's, or no, it's the owlbear about to go into the
about to
cave.
go into hibernation.
I'm like, I packed on all the calories and I'm gonna go hide in the cave for a while.
I'm good for the next 5 months.
I'm good for at least 5 months. Hell, I can make it 7. So, fat owlbear feeds on souls. Thanks, Kurt. You know, we know you're not a part of them anymore, but I feel like you're part of the blame.
Yeah.
So
we know it's you, Kurt. We know it's you. We know what you did.
that's right. We know what you did. The fat owlbear is yours. But why would you have a medieval times advertisement? I mean, I just, you know, the hardy adventurers return to be serenaded with lutes and flutes.
Have your turkey leg.
Have your turkey leg. I want grease all over my clothes. That'll be great. Jesus Christ.
Well, you know, I guess they figure the modern D&D player identifies with medieval times.
What, do they identify as a fat owlbear? I'm sorry.
You know, some of them. Hey, you know, I don't know. Who am I to judge? But
I clearly need to just make this all bourbon going forward. It'll be helpful.
Oh my God!
Owlbears will be the new Cabbage Patch.
Oh, they could be if that was the owlbear. Oh God, who? You know what? There was a small publishing company that did pretty cool calendars on a yearly basis, like a monster calendar, monsters and their babies. And I think they did a plush owlbear that looked a lot like that.
I'm sorry. The only calendar that I have kept all these years is my Carmen Electra calendar from like 1994.
No. Recent. Hold on. I think I see something on my shelf. Hold on.
Yes, folks, that's the discreet attempt to, yes. My last pitch before I walked out the door, mic drop. Thank you, Kurt Gould. Yes, don't pet the fluffy owlbears. That needs to be a sign.
Don't pet the fluffy owlbear. I was right. It was on my shelf. Hold on a second.
Oh, noes.
See, that's the owlbear.
That's totes adorbs.
See, that's what your adventurers are going to be killing in the D&D 2024 rules. All right, that's it.
Fluffy owlbears.
Fluffy owlbear.
My hopes for Briark are dimming greatly. I'm afraid there won't be a Briark, and that just makes
no. I don't think it's going to be a Briark. It's going to be. Come, take your seat.
They'll have a conga line, and there'll be like a lot of LeMay, right? It's just going to be like Loopy Velez. Anyway, so what else have we got going on this week? I saw that announcement about the basic set. You know, this is one of those things. This is one of those times of year where retailers are now trying to juggle everything about what do we stock and what do we have for fourth quarter and so on and so forth. Good stores stock up on the stuff that they need and really, really want for fourth quarter because it's mostly in stock right now. The shitty stores are going to cut it down to the bone and they won't have a lot of inventory. And then when fourth quarter gets here, they'll be surprised. And then you won't be surprised when they're out of business like 8 months from now because they won't make it. Let's see what else. Kathy Ireland's calendars were now. Interestingly enough, I have a Kathy Ireland related note, which is that she got her commercial fishing license this past week and posted about it because her husband, I guess, operates deep sea fishing charters, and she went through all the steps. And if you had told me that Kathy Ireland would be married to somebody who was a deep sea fisherman and would in fact be getting her deep sea fishing license, this was not on my 2025 bingo card. So it's kind of interesting. Let's see. I did see a great quote from. I saw that J.K. Rowling had a very funny thing, which is, "It's hard to take your critics seriously when you're so busy counting your money." I thought that was She has that posted, I think, in the bathroom off of her office.
I would say that's
Something
probably
similar to that. I thought that was particularly witty.
that could be on the business card. I mean, that would be
Yeah, it's
perfect.
pretty hard to, yes. So let's see what else. Oh gosh, it's that most wondrous time of the year where the fourth quarter products are starting to be whispered about. Strange Things is coming. Stranger Things is coming. So season 5, and it's the last
Yep.
one. The kids are like, we're too old to pretend to be children anymore. We're done.
Yeah.
And they're
When a
splitting it
show
in
comes
half.
out every 2 to 3 seasons, but they're only supposed to age a year in between, it doesn't
Yes.
work too well with the youngins.
Yes. Good luck, Millie. I don't think anybody's going to buy the fact that you're 16 or 17 at this point. So,
Yeah.
but I guess they're splitting the seasons in half. Star Trek: Brave New Worlds launched last week, and they started with
Okay.
2 episodes, and it's an episode a week now until it's over. Rick and Morty started a few weeks ago. I know these are all shows watched and beloved by various segments of our audience.
Right.
But I haven't seen anything that's really, like Strange New Worlds has been consistently pretty well written. The second episode was trying to be the funny episode of the season, and it's a very thinly disguised Q, and I was like, Rick and Morty is Rick and Morty. I think the laughs are a little thinner, and they're not as biting as they were. And I think what they've made up for in biting is a bit crude. But interestingly, I'm not gonna veer into the politics side of things, but I will comment on. Interestingly, Trey Parker and Matt Stone had a really great announcement this past week, where they revealed that they are getting a $1.5 billion contract for 5 seasons of South Park, 10 episodes each season, and
Damn.
And so what's very, very interesting about this to me is a friend of mine was the person at Microsoft who was in charge of a South Park licensed game, South Park Ladder Defense, or South Park something that was for sale on Xbox Live. So it was developed by Microsoft's internal studio team, and they tapped him to lead the project. And he's the only person I know. We'll get there, Ty. We'll get there. He's the only person I know who ever met Trey Parker and Matt Stone, and he said that these two guys, like, he had a half an hour, and the meetings went so well that they gave him an extra half an hour, and that was pretty unprecedented. They had 3 layers of security. There was an outer, a middle, and inner perimeter rings, and you were escorted, and there was the schedule, and so on and so forth. But when it came time to meet the two of them, these are the people who own the intellectual property.
Right.
These are the people who are vested in the intellectual property. And we talk about IP owners all the time on the show. We talk about wizards, and we talk about how we want them to care and everything else. And so his experience with IP owners is, you've got the guys who don't care, you've got the guys who care too much. But he said, walking into the room, like, Matt and Trey have 2 desks that are about 5-10 feet apart, and they face the same way, and you sit on a couch. It's like a hot seat.
Uh-huh.
Come in, they like, would you like a drink? Sure, water would be great, whatever. And he said, then what happened for the next half hour was questions from 2 guys who had not only played the alpha and the beta, but had played them to death, and who wanted to know specific answers about this and this and this and this, and all he was doing was answering questions. And I believe when they were done, they asked him if he had any questions, and I think he said, yes, I've got some. And they gave him extra time, which was unprecedented. And he asked them questions, and then it got into a bit of a brand discussion about each of the specific characters and what they wanted, and so on and so forth. And he said this was like going into a meeting with 2 guys that not only had played the game to death and had an absolute understanding of everything about it, but had taken handfuls of Adderall and Ritalin and were so laser focused. He said, one of them would ask a question, he would answer it. The next one, the other guy would ask a question, and he'd answer it. And it was just a machine gun of rapid fire questions. And I think at one point, he was trying to scribble some notes down, and they're like, "We're recording this. You'll get a copy of the transcript.
All right.
You have to take notes." But this was almost 20 years ago, and really and truly, these guys were just dialed in. And I think it's very interesting. We don't have many shows. We have The Simpsons and just a handful of others that have these crazy long runs, but they have managed to stay relevant. They have managed to capture a significant enough audience that tunes in for every single episode that they warranted a $1.5 billion deal, which is just crazy.
That's 300,000 per year. Now, I there was an issue going on with South Park between Paramount and Comedy Central as to how the rights to broadcast the contracts were. It was weird. I was trying to follow it, and it confused that.
Well, and talk about Braniff, the Braniff behind Braniff Airlines, funded them, which is why at the end of every episode you have the Braniff plane logo that goes by, and that got them through that. But it's just another one of these interesting things. I know people are talking about something else having been canceled. I realize that, but I ain't going near that hot potato. Y'all can just forget it.
All I'll say is I haven't watched late night TV on commercial television since David Letterman went off the air.
I haven't watched since Craig Ferguson left the air.
Okay, we all have the person that was in our zone. It doesn't mean you agreed with everything that all their jokes, but you were like, they're in my zone. I like Letterman. I actually saw one of his specials as a live recording way back in like my college days. But the reality is late night TV is not making the money that it made back when we were 20, 30 years
old. I feel this is such a perilous third rail item of discussion that
commercial TV isn't making the money it used to make.
I'm going to move on and simply say, God bless his heart, rest in peace, Aussie Osborne.
Oh my God!
He
got for a performance 19 days ago or something like that.
Yes, and Joe Manganiello was kind enough. He and his girlfriend took Stefan Picorni and Anne to go see the show, which I think is incredibly sweet. And I sent Joe a note and said that, and got a very nice reply back. I think if you look at when you played D&D, if you look at when you were first involved in role playing, there are certain albums that just that send you back to that time. I make infinite amount of jokes about Molly Hatchet's Flirting with Disaster. I pretty much, if it wasn't the gratuitous gunfire on this side of my that took out this ear, it was Molly Hatchet's Flirting with Disaster that took out the hearing on this side of my head. And I think that like for me, it's Flirting with Disaster. It's Asia's Asia album. I'm sure that people who have ever been near me are sick of hearing Heat of the Moment. I don't care. But man, Blizzard of Oz, there's so much. He was great as a part of Deep Purple. But what he became when he went solo is something completely different. I understand that he peed on the Alamo. Not cool. Not cool. He bit the head off a bat as a joke. Still not cool. But the man was an undeniable force. And just as we talk about Def Leppard and the tragedy involving their drummer and him losing an arm, he lost Randy Rhoads in a horrible, horrible, horrible accident. And Diary of a Madman, Blizzard of Oz, all these albums that have this just unique, it makes me cringe when I think of all these great guitarists that have died over the years, and we've been denied all this amazing work that they could have done if they had not been in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I saw a really, really funny picture. I saw a very, very funny picture we've all seen the meme of Death at a claw machine. trying to get
Oh,
something.
I saw that one. Yes.
Yeah. And the great one that I saw yesterday or today was Death whacking the machine and trying to operate it. And he goes, Jesus, is Keith Richards even in this thing? And I thought, again, like, how on God's green earth has Keith Richards survived? And Ozzy did this amazing farewell concert. He has Parkinson's. He had Parkinson's. There's a reason he was sitting. If you know anything about Parkinson's, it's very clear he was in the advanced stages of Parkinson's. And to his credit, he chose how to walk away from it all and how to sort of, and I'm done. And he gave fans that chance. He gave fans that opportunity. And I think we all know the acts that go on the casino tour and stay out too long, and you're like, what the heck? But, he was a guy who really built, every decade had a new plateau from Ozzy. I can remember being told that there was an Aussie Osborne TV show, and I remember thinking, what the hell? Like, why would I ever watch this? And like everybody else, I watched every episode because it just got funnier and funnier. And all of these famous people are just as boringly normal as we all are. God, I love the fact that he is just yelling Sharon around the house and puttering around. And his kids are like, Jesus Christ, do you have any idea what it's like to have Ozzy Osbourne as your dad? The less successful show was the one with Gene Simmons and his wife and their kids and the Shannon Tweed and Shannon Tweed and her sister were both in Playboy, and then Shannon Tweed, I did a bunch of low budget B movies with optional clothing, but Ozzy was again a pathfinder, and I can remember the first time I heard Blizzard of Oz. I can remember the first time I heard Diary of a Madman, and that guitar, that insane guitar. There's guitar people from the '80s, and I think of Steve Stevens, and I think of Randy Rhoads, and guys that got a guitar and they didn't need a bunch of guitars, and they just had one and they played the living shit out of it and became something just transcendent. And we're hard pressed to find somebody like Ozzy these days. They're out there. I just don't know who they all are. I think Lemmy and Ozzy are now wherever they are in the afterlife. And man, oh man, I pity whoever's near them because they won't be able to hear. I stopped at my local record store today and I said, I just can't imagine the run on Ozzy Osbourne you have. And the guy laughed and he said, we had 20 plus Ozzy CDs and, we had another 20 LPs and so on. And they were gone within the day that Ozzy passed away.
Wow.
And you don't have to like Ozzy. Like I'm not like, not everybody is the same musically. I get that, right? But have respect for what he did for the genre, right? Iron Man. The first time I heard Iron Man, I'm just like, I am Iron Man. I'm like, what the hell is this, right? But he comes out of that and he's like, okay, here we go. I'm not solo. What am I going to do to carve out my solo career? And God, I kept seeing all these pictures of Ozzy with short hair in the 80s, right? Like, the arrested at the Alamo photo and all the rest of this. I can't imagine being his agent. I can't imagine being Sharon and having to deal with his shitstorms that constantly surrounded Ozzy. But his soundtrack is, if there is an appendix S for soundtracks for role playing, Jesus Christ, that man's got a catalog that just keeps adding to it, right? There's so much of that. I see some people say, but everybody has something, right? Now, if you're really like a gigantic REO Speedwagon fan and that's what you think of with D&D, I don't want to hear from you for a while. Just sit down. That's a little weird. But
Journey.
Yeah, Journey. But you know what? There are those people.
Oh yeah, By the way, the one clip that I saw from that final performance, I saw Jason Momoa, the actor Aquaman, talking to one of the security guards, then hopping the little metal fence and going into the mosh pit with the normies and moshing, and it blew my mind that somebody with that much money and whose face is so important to their acting would throw themselves actively into a mosh pit. God bless. God bless them. That's somebody who
Well,
really appreciates the genre, the music.
yeah, and somebody's mentioning Sam Kinison, right? Here's a guy who just died way too early. When you know what these people's pasts are, you understand some of what drives them. Um, we're we're at an anniversary. I saw this week. We're in an anniversary for Robin Williams' death, from when he took his own life, and his son had posted a very 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 moving memorial about how he missed his father and so on. And I think, there are people who are like, Ozzy meant everything to me, Ozzy blah 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 blah. But I say this gently, you're a fan. You can love and appreciate his music, but really and truly, like, Sharon Osbourne is mourning. His kids are mourning. His close
Yep.
friends that he hung out with are mourning. And it's a reminder. We say this all the time on the show, and I'm sure everybody's sick of it, but we say all the time that you need to go see your idols. You need to go meet your people. Um, this is just tough. Like somebody's mentioned Hawkwind. We all have that one friend that is like the weirdly what's the English band, with our favorite dancing flute player? I'm trying to think of the name. Anyway, we always have that one friend that's like really, really, really deep into them. We always have that friend who's like really, really Blue Oyster Cult.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But all that stuff, all that stuff is important to us individually, but collectively, Appendix S has a hell of a bunch of music on it. I used to run a winter D&D. I ran a Dungeons and Dragons game in a winter campaign setting, and the reoccurring soundtrack was the Arctic soundtrack by Vangelis. And by the time, Jethro Tull, thank you. By the time I was done, everybody was like, "What the hell was that music you were always playing in the background?" Like, I felt cold, and I was really just like, ah. And I'm like, "Oh, it's this Vangelis album," and they're like, "What is it?" Music takes us places. Music makes us think about things, and really and truly, Ozzy's music touched. I mean, I don't want to think about what it's going to be like when Metallica. Yeah, and that Engine Joe's got a good point. Meeting your heroes, you gotta lower your expectations, people. They're human. They're human, and they're just like.
Take them off the pedestal, put them down on the ground.
Yeah. Oh dear God.
Yeah, Bad Mike is just annoying us in the chat. He's
Well,
alive though.
Well, good.
Alive.
Yeah, Jethro Tull, and I had a friend who was deep into Jethro Tull. Same guy loved Hawkwind. Same guy was deep into Slade. Like, I have no idea why it was that he was dialed into all the late 70s and 80s English bands, but he was. So good for him. But all these albums, if you listen to them, they take you back, right? They take you back. The album covers, Ronnie James Dio, my God, right? Ronnie James Dio, Last in Line, all this stuff resonates because, we're talking about teenagers, and this is why in season 4 of Stranger Things, everybody got Eddie, everybody understood Eddie, everybody knew an Eddie growing up, and that's fine. And come on, the more highbrow folks were like, "Oh, I'm deeply into Sting's synchronicity work with the Police." Okay, I'm happy for you, but everybody can read Young, and yeah, we got you. So I think you can use music in a campaign, and it sets a great tone. I was running a Vampire the Masquerade game one time, and the players were going a little long on a break, and I queued up Guns N' Roses' Welcome to the Jungle, and that horrifying, wonderful screech of Axl at the start. I just started turning it up, and they knew they needed to get in their seats immediately. Hey, look at that! He's alive.
We're just leaving dinner with Alex Kamer, famous con runner of Gamehole.
Yay!
You want to interrupt your show?
Yeah, I got tired of listening to you guys, so I thought I'd jump in.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're doing a great job without me. I hate it. I hate that you're doing a great job without me. It sucks.
It's all right. You're here now. So how was the drive?
It's great. It's been great. We've been stopping for pork loins. We've been. I'll tell you what. Iowa's beautiful. I think Iowa's a beautiful state. I don't care what anybody says. Iowa's gorgeous. It is a beautiful, beautiful state. We drove across that today.
Mike missed 4 turns.
I did. I've done this drive maybe 20 times, and this has been the most filled one ever. I've been missing turns here and there. I don't know. I think Zach's distracting me. He's very distracting. So we're getting distracted by Zach.
It's the goatee Glazer.
Yep. Oh yeah. Oh, he looks like he's so hot. I can barely keep my hands off him in the car. He just looks so great.
Keep your hands on the wheel, Mike, please.
Hold on. Let us turn to a monetizing model with only Zach.
No.
But
Would you like to see Zach in compromising positions?
No.
Perhaps dusting a table, vacuuming your rug.
So we're headed down to Lake Geneva right now, about an hour. We're just leaving Middleton and the Gamehole, and we'll be there within an hour, and we'll check in. And we got shenanigans starting tomorrow at Acon. It's gonna be fun. I'm really excited about it. We don't plan on beating any games at this time. I don't know if we're gonna be able to work ourselves into a game or not, but if so, fine. If not, fine. We're just there to hang out. So what nefarious goings on has Diamond done this week? No, I'm just kidding.
Diamond,
I have no clue what you got to do.
We talked about it a little bit. There's been some lawsuits filed. Interesting. Fantagraphics tried to bring a bunch of publishers together to sue, and then they were not a part of the lawsuit they helped generate or bring together. So that was a little like, huh? But Green Ronin seems to have plateaued out. The last donation they had was about 2 days ago, but they still raised a pretty good war chest for trying to fight this. I guess they filed for an injunction. The bankruptcy court extended a deadline for a couple of days for some of the folks that are affected, some of the larger choices. So we'll sort of see where it all leads to, I guess, is where we're kind of.
I'm really interested in seeing what happens with the companies who might have a lot of their stock in Diamond that are going to Gen Con. Is it next week or the week after?
It's next week.
Oh, that is going to cut it tight for a lot of those companies that may or may not have stock with Diamond. Because if your stock is with Diamond, I don't think you're getting it back in time, do you?
Oh, no, they're not.
Oh, no.
So what do you just show up for Gen Con with an empty table? Please leave. You show like a fishbowl and you put a dollar bill in there and hopefully people put money in the fishbowl. I mean, what do you do? I have no clue. Oh, that was Zach's joke. I just used it. So.
Yeah, so one group, the Ad Hoc Committee of Consigners, filed on behalf of 11 companies which were not identified, noting that the objection was also, quote, in the best interest of similarly situated consigners. As an exhibit, the objection included an agreement between Diamond and Paizo Incorporated. Paizo was a client of Diamond Book Distributors and has announced that its August and September releases would not be available to the book channel. A likely unnamed member of the group is Green Ronin, which has raised over $35,000 for legal fees via GoFundMe, and said in an update in the campaign that they had joined a group effort with other affected companies. A second group includes 13 companies, 12 comic publishers, including Dynamite Entertainment, Magnetic Press, Massive Publishing, Oni Press, a bunch I have never heard of, Alien Books, Titan Comics, Vault Comics, blah, 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 and Panini UK, which... Panini, if they decide to really, they've got deep pockets and they've got deep Italian pockets. They can come after them.
Wow, that's still. I mean, that's the damage is gonna be done though if they don't get done by Gen Con, which they're not. This is gonna affect a lot of game companies that have stock. They're gonna sell stuff at Gen Con.
Maybe Gen Con can refund.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen. No. Not going to happen. No refunds. Let's see.
Yeah, I think it'll be a real puzzle to see how they handle this. Ty has been very good about about explaining all the varieties of ways that this is.
Like beer?
it has-
Yeah, he likes to show off, doesn't he? When the actual subject is actually something he knows about, he gets all puffed up chest and he likes to show off. He's always pontificating about stuff he doesn't know about, but this is something he actually knows about. So,
What's it for Waffle House?
Wow. On that note,
this is the Waffle House menu. Those are the two things he knows about.
I just have you guys seen the story of the guy who left the review for Waffle House, where he was going to a Waffle House
Yes,
and somebody followed him into the Waffle House?
Oh, it's great. That's a great review, brother.
And
that is, by the way, that is every Waffle House I've ever been into, which is why I don't go to Waffle House very often.
You don't mess around in the Waffle House.
After 3 a.m., if you go into Waffle House, you're going to be entertained whether you want to or not, because there's always something going down 3 a.m. at the Waffle House.
So I think it's interesting that PSI, the flooring company, the warehousing company that handles a lot of gaming distribution for people, I think it's very interesting that they have not really been involved in any of these diamond shenanigans. I'm not sure why, because this looks like something that would be right up their alley. But I don't know. Publisher Service Incorporated. So I am unsure. I have many questions. So, but we'll find out.
Well, I think some question. I mean, like I said, after Gen Con, I guess we'll know some. I mean, everybody's going to go to Gen Con. I mean, you're going to be there, Jim. You'll be able to hear all the gossip, that runs around the vendor hall and all everybody. So you'll probably know a lot after Gen Con.
Well, the Diana Jones Awards are next Wednesday, and I'm sure that is going to be the scuttlebutt and a lot of people talking about it. Thursday, the show starts. I'll be pretty busy Wednesday, Thursday. I think it'll be very interesting to see what the scene on the ground is. I think again, I hope that there's a lot of manufacturers that have learned some fairly painful lessons from all of this, because I just don't know how you don't have painful lessons from this.
Well, we may or may not have just had dinner with a certain famous lawyer in our community, and he pretty much echoed everything we've heard in terms of, if you're a business like this, you should hire a lawyer, and that this is going to be a lesson. I think this is going to be a very, very expensive lesson for a lot of companies that don't cheap out when it comes to legal. You need to hire, when you're signing a contract, hire a lawyer to read the contract.
Yeah, I wish people were that smart. It doesn't. This is an industry rife with people, both unprofessional and who want to believe that they're lawyers, even though they did not get a degree and they are not practicing law.
Oh, he's talking about you, Zach.
I know.
Did you hear that? That's awful.
I did.
Did you let that stand?
My attorney actually will tell me that while he's eating dinosaur nuggets.
Yeah. That guy's not very professional.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's a tough lesson to learn, man. I'll tell you. And honestly, and I was just telling Alex this. One of the first things that Gary and I did when after Doug passed and we got the con is we got a lawyer to go over all the legals. Doug was a little lax in that area, and we sewed everything up pretty quick, and because we did not want things to happen that can happen, that you don't want to happen but could happen, and you need to have that legal representation there, that legal paperwork, all the I's dotted and T's crossed.
Yeah, and when things are great until they aren't, and then when they aren't, you've got to make sure you've got a lawyer that's managing all the sides of something. This business with the
Alex made a good point too. He said that if the thing about hiring a lawyer, if these companies had hired a lawyer, first of all, let's say they forgot to notify them that they need to do the UCC. Guess who's responsible for that, Jim? The lawyer. You could sue the lawyer then. You would have an out, because the lawyer gave you bad advice, gave you horrible advice, and malpractice advice. And so hiring the lawyer was the thing to do, because even if you gave you bad advice, you still have an out then, which is you can sue the lawyer because the lawyer didn't tell you to sign the UCC. So, that was the play in this case. It was the highest of that, but we don't know how many people just didn't know to do that. I mean, look, I didn't know anything about it until the story started coming out. I had no clue what that was. And then people started, oh yeah, you should do that if you ever have stuff on consignment. I did not know that. I did not know at all.
Yeah, I got nothing.
But
I got nothing. I think all of this stuff is going to be. I think all of this stuff is just going to be. Yeah.
It's not good for our hobby. It's not good for the comic book hobby, at least initially. It may. I don't know. I think it's going to drive a lot of these smaller companies out of business. I really do. It's a shame.
No, I think you're right. Like I said, the smaller comic book companies are they're going to go out of business. If you're a comic book company, you only have 5 titles, and all your stock was at Diamond, you're done. You can't get that back. You can't get that product back. You can't get that money back. It's done.
Right.
You're finished. And there were a lot of smaller comic book companies on that list I saw. A lot of mom and pop companies.
Yes, and that's really tough as well. I think it's a case of, again, in an industry where you've got a lot of people that don't, they don't have an education, they don't have a background in business, and so on and so forth. They wing it. They wing it a lot of times.
Like we always talk about, these are creative types that aren't going to. I mean, look, we talk about this all the time. How many creative types are great at business? It's a rare combination. They have a creative type that knows business and vice versa. And so, a lot of them, they're just doing it like, how many people do we know that owned a game or comic store that know what they're doing and it went bankrupt after a year because they love games and they love comics and they love RPGs. They don't know how to run a business though.
No. And frequently I see some of the same players over and over again where, they have a 30-year history, a 20-year history of this sort of stuff. And you just think at some point, I just don't know when I should feel bad for you. Like I do feel bad for people whose livelihoods are dependent on this. Nobody woke up and wanted to lose their inventory in this diamond stuff.
Right.
But I look at some of these deals and I'm just like, what the hey? Like you essentially were going to use diamond as a free warehouse where you weren't paying any flooring costs. You decided to embrace this deal. And you weren't going to have to pay, PSI, you have to pay every month for your stuff to be floored at PSI. And that is that's how they start off your sheet. Your billing sheet every month shows how much you owe for the flooring of the inventory you have. And then the next part of the report is brutal because it shows how much of your inventory they moved for you. How much they got orders, and this is what they moved out. And by the way, we're billing you for that. And then it gets to a point where you're upside down in the equation and you have to pay PSI all this money. And eventually at some point, PSI says, okay, do you want to just give us product and we'll take care of disposing of it and so on.
What a racket. Wow.
So yeah, it's just awful. Now, Eric, just before we went on the air, you shared a little bon mot. Are we going to talk about the world of game design?
Well, what's interesting is that I've actually gotten I did a video on it yesterday. It was initially members only. I put it out earlier today for the larger world at large, and I've already gotten 2 PMs from people that have been like, "Yeah, that it's a company to avoid doing business with as a creator." So,
yeah.
What company is this we're talking about?
World of Game Design.
World of Game Design.
Oh, our buddies. Yes, our friends.
Yes, I think it's been more than 6 months. I wonder if he's willing to come back on again.
Discuss the new contract that he canceled the old contract and basically gave people to the end of business, is what I was hearing, to sign the new contract, which means I guess you couldn't have somebody look it over for you.
It's a doozy.
Yes.
I think that's the phrase we'll use is, oh my sweet Lord, is it a doozy?
So you got to, if you're repping at a convention, hotel, all those fees are your fees. And you're getting paid commission, which hopefully will cover your cost.
What?
Well, just when you thought that here's the deal. The hardest I've ever been to a guest on this show was it Jared? Was that his name?
Yes.
Jared from
Jared.
World of Game Design, where I believe Mike will be the first to tell you I was apoplectic, because he didn't have a plan as much as he had many hopes. And in my household, the phrase that pays is hope is not a plan, right? I hope you don't get pregnant.
It wasn't just that he came on our show and didn't have an answer for the questions you asked.
No, there was a lot of stammering. He was a bit bug-eyed, and certainly there was a certain je ne sais quoi of deer in headlights. But maybe we should reach out and see if Jared would like to come on the show again, because I got more questions.
Questions?
Oh, so many questions. But it goes back to our point we were just coming from. So let me just emphasize this again. If you're going to sign a contract, read the contract. Understand the contract. This is like buying a car. If you don't read the paperwork, you can't complain about how badly you got screwed over later. Nobody's holding a gun to your head. If the guy shows up at your house and says, "Here, I've got the bill of sale. You need to sign this right now," you can shut the door. And perhaps if they're so desperate they sent the guy to your house with the cheap Invicta watch and the JCPenney suit, perhaps you should not sign the paperwork. I'm throwing that out to you.
Yeah.
But let's talk about this, right? Like, Jared at World of Game Design has apparently created a new doozy of a contract. The termination clause is one side. There's a chance of free labor, no pre-signed work payments. There's a perpetual forfeiture on IP assignment. If you are a creative and you're looking for something, right? He bans you from saying anything disparaging, public or private critique of World of Game Design for 2 years post-contract. 2 years. A contract that he has the right to cancel at any time, but nobody else does.
Right.
So I just
who signs that? Who would sign?
But you know what? Desperate people who don't understand what they're getting involved in. So I have heard for a very long. Okay, let me rewind it. When I worked at Games Workshop, the telltale way that you knew that one of your guys was doing something they shouldn't do on the phone, and this works for every business, is when you have somebody that's if they're whispering into the phone, they are not doing something legitimate. They're doing something bad. So we had a guy that I worked with, and when I would see him whispering into the phone, I would just immediately begin berating him loudly and saying, "Are you having phone sex with your mom again? Are you flirting with your sister? Like, what are you doing?" I'd just be yelling at him. I'd be like, "I know you're whispering because you're doing something you shouldn't be." And he would just be like, "I got caught. I got to go." Right. And as bad as that guy was, there was another guy at Games Workshop's trade sales department in the U.S. who was legendary for being a problem. Now let's move forward in time. So many of you may be familiar with a game called Zombicide from a company called CMON.
Absolutely. I've got it. I have a copy.
Yes. Well, I'm not saying that CMON is as predatory as World of Game Design. And Jared, I look forward to having another visit with you on the show. But really and truly, like CMON's contracts are very one-sided. So do you remember the little trench warfare game they did, where little funny cartoon-looking guys, and you set up a trench warfare, and there was like a Red Baron and other stuff? Does that ring a bell? No. The guy who invented that signed the contract with CMON without really. He was so excited to get his project on Kickstarter that he didn't read the contract. People, I'm begging you, and whatever it is in life that you are going to sign a contract for, sweet Jesus, read it. If you don't understand it, get help to understand it. Pay the money to a lawyer, right? I implore you, all of you, please slow down. Nothing is in that big of a hurry. if you're trying to buy a house, you know what? If somebody skunks you and signs an undesirable contract ahead of you, walk away and thank whatever deity that you believe in. It's just don't do it. For God's sakes, don't do it. And Jared, maybe I think we got to reach out. We got to reach out and get Jared on the show, because I can't wait to hear him explain all this. Somebody mentions an NDA. The most onerous NDA I have ever signed, freely willing to sign, was that I have a brother-in-law that works for Bungie, and we all went out to Seattle, and I was the person, because my spouse and my son were biologically related to my brother-in-law. They didn't have to sign an NDA, but I did. I was the loose connection. I had to sign a 27-page NDA with Bungie to step foot in the studio, because I agreed that they could go through everything of mine electronically. They could go through I gave them the right to search my office, to search my phone, to search my social media accounts. If they felt I leaked material information, I gave them the right, uncontested, to track it down. And when I went, they were still working on Destiny before it launched. And this was not a secret. Everybody knew that they were working on Destiny. But I had people who would ask me afterwards, they would say, "What did you see?" And I said, "Well, I can't really talk about it." I said, "But I don't think it's a stretch to tell you that the game might have explosions." And they were like, "You saw explosions?" And I said, "I'm not confirming that, but I don't think it's that, like, I think it's safe to intuit that there will probably be explosions." And they were like, "Well, what kind of explosions?" I was like, "Again, I can't tell you, but you wanted to know something, and that's what I'm willing to tell you." And the fact of the matter is they were fresh from their separation from Microsoft. They had watched Halo recede in the mirror, but they were very, very, very cautious about their IP and protecting their IP, and I understood that. And I signed the NDA willingly, because I wasn't going to be left outside of that studio while my wife and son got the full Monty tour. So you do have to, but I did read it, right? And I recognized everything I was signing away. Like, all they had to do is show up at my doorstep and say, "We want to see your phone. We want access to your emails. Show us everything." Okay, dope. Because I don't have anything to hide. Have it. So, So we're a little after 8. Let me talk a little bit about Gen Con, right? So Acon's this week. And Mike and Zach are there. I had a very funny exchange with Jeffrey Tull today. And Eric, you should really look up the picture that Tull posted of his new hats, where his daughter was wearing the hat. Can you pull that up and share that picture?
Let me see if I can find
it. It's the epitome of teenage angst, right? Because, like all of us, Jeff Tull has kids. And Jeffrey Tull's daughter was willing to put the brand new Hyperborea hat on and model it for Jeff. But folks, I want you to see the picture, because if this isn't the most Jeffrey Tull is making me do something I don't want to do, but my dad made me do it.
Oh, yeah, I found it. Give me a sec.
Let's share this picture, because I've seen this exact same phrase and I said to Tull today. We were having notes back and forth, and Tull's talking about running Hyperborea at Acon, and one of the things he's going to do is he's got an adventure called The Horror on the Hillcock. All 5 times he's run it, it's been a complete TPK. Everybody's died, and he says, "Well, we'll see." He goes, "We'll see how this goes." Now, he also wanted me to let everybody know that he will be wearing his Edwin versus the Frost Giant shirt. So Fugly, good on you. And they're still available. But look how happy Tull's daughter is to be wearing the hat.
Pumped. She is absolutely pumped to be wearing that hat. Wow.
Yes. If you thought Crom was disdainful of you, I think Crom comes second, because Crom's disdain is exceeded by Jeffrey Tull's daughter. It's
I
a
wonder
great
if
picture.
my 17-year-old granddaughter has that look all the time. I wonder if that's just endemic of any granddaughter or daughter.
Yes.
They
Yes.
just get that look on their face and never disappears.
Whatever. So, but Acon's this week. We've talked about support your local cons, support your small regional cons. You got to do it. But next week is the big kahuna. It's Gen Con. And so let me talk about what it's going to be like. So next Wednesday is auction intake day. Now, while all the exhibitors have started setting up on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the auction will come together first thing in the morning, and then we will begin intake at like 10 or 11 o'clock. And we will have lines. I've seen what the auction items look like. This is not the worst year ever. In fact, we're going to have time to auction stuff. I'm thrilled about that.
Nice.
The store is going to be big, but it's not going to be ludicrous. I'm very happy about that. You still have time to get items into the store. If you're coming to Gen Con and you want to put things in the consignment store, you still have to do that. You can still do that. We extended the deadline a day, the same way we did for auctions. So that's to help everybody out. I will throw out, we're very excited. Okay, so auction intake starts at noon. Thanks, Jerry. So very excited about a few things. We're trying a couple of things that are different. Normally we have the collector's auction on Friday night, and that's going to be a hoedown. I've seen some of the stuff that's going to be there. It's going to be good. We have the charity auction on Saturday night, but we're trying something new this year.
Uh-oh.
What could we possibly be doing differently? Well, first of all, we're going to have a piratically themed Sailing the Seas of Kickstarter crowdfunding. Sailing the Seas of crowdfunding. So if it came through crowdfunding, we're creating a giant section on Thursday night. We're going to wear nautical pirate costumes, make a bunch of bad pirate jokes, have pirate trinkets to throw out to the crowd. How slutty is it? I don't know. But we're going to make a pirate night on Thursday night. And then we have finally revealed what we're doing after the pirate-themed crowdfunding session. We're going to have the auction after dark.
Ooh.
Yes, if you put something risque into the auctions, if you put something that we can have a lot of fun with, we're going to do a special section. No kids. It's the auction after dark. And if you think the double entendres are going to fly, my friend, I've already got a smoking jacket. I've got a captain's hat. I've got a pipe. And I cannot wait for this.
Jim, let me throw out. I'm going to throw out some things that I think might appear in this auction. Number one, do you think the slave auction box set miniature may be in something like this?
I think that. I think, what's his name?
How about the Book of Erotic Fantasy?
The Book of Erotic Fantasy. I believe we could also do the Deck of Sexy Things. I think there's no shortage of material that the RPG world will provide. And we are going to go wheels up after the crowdfunding. And I ordered my costume, and it's just wonderfully bad. I'm going to look like the biggest low-rent Hugh Hefner you've ever seen.
Oh, God.
And so I'm going...
If you're going to be taking pictures of Jim so we can put them on the show...
It's just going to be spectacular, right? I expect we'll have corsets for days. Corsets for days. And if you're a corset wearer, you can go straight from the piratical theme deep into the auction after dark.
Deep. So, we're talking about deep, baby. Get as deep as you want.
We're gonna go deep and hard.
What was the WotC sexy book? There was the Book of Erotic Fantasy. That was third party. What was the WotC one that everybody went?
Oh, the Book of Vile
Darkness. Oh my! It's Vile.
Yes. Yes, we can't serve you drinks, but you can sure as hell go to the hotel bar, fuel up, and come back.
Oh, there'll be so many bad jokes during that segment. I can't wait.
There's going to be. I mean, I look forward. I have material I've begun working on. We're going to have a lot of quality moments on Thursday night.
Oh,
and then of course miniatures and Games Workshop on Friday afternoon. But we are going to be. It's going to be a barn burner of silliness and good fun and so on. So yeah.
Jim, what scares me is you're obviously getting enough pervy material to actually have a whole section. That worries me.
I don't know how to tell you this, but really every game auction gets the pervy material. right? If it's not the covers,
That's true.
it's, hey,
Yeah, but that also
I've,
means the guy dressed
I've
like
got a copy of the Lovers board game. Oh, great. Thank you so much,
Mhm.
sir. I can't tell you how much I appreciate that. But the
sexy. I bet.
Yeah, I'm kind of angry because that means a lot of stuff is going to be sold before the midnight auction next year.
well, I got
That's
news
usually what
for
we
you.
roll with.
The
Midnight
closets are deep and wide filled with this material. Trust me. Trust
And we're talking.
me. I'm just happy we don't have like fur-lined
Oh, yeah.
handcuffs and
Market's bad.
yes, it's
Yeah, Zach's market is bad. Really? I wouldn't have known that, but now I
I
know.
made a post about it in a couple
Oh,
of
man.
places about, we've been working long, wait for it, and hard
Mhm.
for it's going to be so bad. I expect people in furry costumes. I mean, with my luck, they're going to be using badminton rackets and paddling each other in the aisles, but
Ooh.
it's
Which-
going to be good fun, silly good fun. So
That sounds great, man.
No,
I'm excited about. I always like to see the prices. I'm excited to see what some of the stuff's going to go for.
well,
some of the
ideally,
hype-
if they've been drinking all the way through the pirate crowdfunding
Ooh.
and they roll that right into auction after dark, I mean, I honestly, I just hope people just hold their hands up and don't even care what they win. So
it's pervy. I want it. I want it.
I want it. So how does it work? So it's really easy. First of all, one of the things that we've done is we have, if you wanted to go to the live auction, it's $3 for a tag. If you wanted to go in the store, it's $2 a tag. If you sell the item, you get a $1 credit back. And what this does is this discourages people bringing their moldy crap and trying to put it into the auction in the store. Now, first of all, if it's moldy or counterfeit or something, we are like, no, thank you. Appreciate that. So at intake, there's always a few kickbacks. But then they pay a slight percentage of what the total realized price was for us putting in the auction. Now, I am very confident in my staff of auctioneers. We will do our damnedest to get the most money we possibly can for you. It doesn't matter if it's a board game or collected card game or miniature or role playing or collectible or whatnot. We're going to bend over backwards to try to get you the most money imaginable. And that's the advantage of a great live auction team. If you have, do I have a dollar? Do I have a dollar? It's like getting your tooth extracted and you've had no Novocaine, and in fact, the dentist is sitting on you and grinding slightly. I'm sorry. It's just terrible. It's just terrible. So we do have a charity auction. And when we have the charity auction, all the monies that are raised during the charity auction, all that money is split between Gen Con's 2 charity partners for the year. And that's how that happens. But there isn't there isn't a percentage that just goes straight to Gen Con that the consumers see. So yeah, 10% store commission. There we go. So I don't know. It's always a good time. It's always a great time. I love it. This is the marathon for me. I have Thursday night, so I'll be piratical, and then I'll be an adult after dark. Then I've got miniatures. I've got miniatures and Games Workshop on Friday, followed by Friday night having collectibles, and then Saturday night is charity auction. And so those are my times where you can slot me in, where you'll find me. I pretty much marathon it, and these guys have all seen me. If you haven't seen me, I'm going to give you my 110% best, and I'm going to burn that candle as hard as I can when I'm auctioning. We have been very, very privileged to auction some great things at the collectibles auction. Last year, we had a true wood grain, first wood grain. We had a TSR annual report. There was only ever one made. And we know of 3 copies that exist in the world. And we sold one of those 2 years ago. The wood grain got a very, 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 very good price. The person who sold it was over the moon and was thrilled. We had talked beforehand, and I said, if it stalls, you need to give me a sign about whether or not you're willing to let the reserve fall. And he agreed. He said, I will. But let's see how it plays out. And I was like, yep, absolutely. We want to see how it plays out. And there's a video floating around of me from last year auctioning that off. And we did very, very well with that. I've seen some of the things that are in the live auction this year. One of the things we do during intake is we pull great things aside and we put those into the collectible section as we see them. There's always stuff that people have not figured out what they have. And the great thing about having somebody like Bill Meinhardt there is that between him and myself and other people who are knowledgeable in the space, we have a great shot at catching your item and pulling it into the auction or moving it to an appropriate selection. We had somebody who had 2 TSR RPGA miniature cases and did not know what he had or what they were worth. And we got him over $450 for each. And this was a guy who just about started to cry. He was so happy. And in fact, he donated all the monies he realized from one of the cases to charity because he was so impressed with the fact that we caught that. Over my shoulder, I have a box that I bought at Gen Con a few years ago. It's a box that has a bunch of Judges Guild maps in it, which is they're old Judges Guild maps, and there's probably some value there, but that's not why I bought the box. The box is from the Dungeon Hobby Shop. The box is from 1973 or 74, I think 74. It has the postage date on it, and more importantly, it actually has the customs form filled out and signed by Ernie Gygax.
Wow.
And when I bought that, we just don't see things like that. Those things don't exist. People don't hold on. Think about how many cardboard boxes you throw away every month that come from Amazon or whatever. But that's the great thing about the auction is that we have stuff like that and we give people a chance to see it and talk about it. And it's magic. Like it really is. It's magic. I've been doing this since 2011. I love it. It's one of the highlights of Gen Con is one of the biggest things for me of the entire year because there's people I see every year. There's bidders I recognize. We have people who save money up all year long to throw it away in the charity auction and just be crazy. The collectibles auction is the same way. We had the person who bought the brown box last year. Nobody knew who that was. That was somebody who was sitting in the audience and was just ready and played to win. But we see the same people year after year. We see new people that come into the fold. I always joke it's the usual suspects. But it's magic, right? It really, really is. I've told a lot of auction stories on here. For charity, we always try to do something nice. If there's kids in the audience, we try to do something fun. You can't lean into the same shtick every year. It gets a little tiresome, but at the same time, you also got to remember that you've got audience members and they're making memories of their own. I think the pirate stuff is going to be hysterical. If this takes off the way I hope it takes off, like I expect next year, it's just going to be parrots and pirate hats and everything as far as the eye can see. And if if the auction after dark takes off, my God, right? We'll be there till midnight laughing and having a great time. And that's what game conventions should be about. They shouldn't be about just long queues to buy something that you'd still be able to buy from your local store 6 weeks from now. They should be about getting together, playing the games you love, meeting other people that love this stuff. I've been very blessed. I have a lot of great friends that I've made over the years at the Gen Con auction, some of my best friends. I'm very fortunate to work very closely with Bill Meinhardt. The two of us work very, very well on shows. Jerry, that's in the comments. Jerry's the one who recruited me and made an effort to recruit me. I actually have a video that somebody shot of the first time I actually stepped to the mic. And the caption on the video is, "Dear God, they gave him a microphone," and essentially just step back and let me do the thing that I do, that I love. I have raised an extraordinary amount of money for charity, and I've raised some astonishing amounts of money for charity. We'll come to the achy breaky story, I promise. So Gen Con I just can't say enough great things about the people who attend Gen Con. I can't say enough great things about the people who I work with at the auction. I think it's a unique experience. I wish I had known about it in 1993. I would have gone then, and I would never have looked back. But you have the advantage now that you can. If you're going to Gen Con, you should. Should I tell my achy breaky story?
Tell your achy breaky story.
Okay, so many of you know that I grew up in Eastern Kentucky, and I grew up in a city called Ashland, and Ashland has like all small areas. You know, we've got some other outlying areas. There was a city down the Ohio River called Russell, but between Russell and Ashland there was Flatwoods, and Flatwoods was the home of Billy Ray Cyrus. So many of you may remember his Achy Breaky Heart or his TV show Doc, or you may know him as the dad of Miley Cyrus. So Letitia Finley, Billy Ray's wife and Miley's mom, Letitia Finley, or Tish Cyrus as she goes by now, was a year ahead of me in high school. And so all of my yearbooks, 3 of my yearbooks, have Letitia Finley in it, have Tish Cyrus in it. And I knew her, right? Like she was an attractive young woman. I remember her going to a lot of concerts. She had a lot of concert shirts. And I got to be very, very cautious about how I sort of explore this next part of it. So for 1 year while I was going to school, I worked at a Camelot Music. And I spent a year working at a Camelot Music. And I worked with a guy named Wayne. And Wayne was an awesome dude. Wayne was a dude. Wayne was in a speed metal band that got signed. They got signed actually, and had several albums that were released through not Moonska. They were released through I'll have to think about it. They had several albums that came out. They were a band called the Connie Dungs. And so if you look up Wayne and the Connie Dungs, you'll find Wayne. Wayne, Wayne doesn't have any hair now. Wayne white hair, little heavy set, but Wayne was the bassist. His brother was in the band, and so on and so forth. But every Saturday morning, I would open the store with Wayne. I would open the Camelot, like every Saturday, but like every other Saturday, I'd open the store with Wayne. And every time I opened the store with Wayne, there were always new stories. Because Wayne would come in, right? I'd be there first, and I'd be counting the drawers, getting ready to open the store. And Wayne would roll in a little late. And we didn't tell our manager, George, about this because Wayne was a nice guy. But Wayne had been in with the band, and they had played somewhere, and they had gotten out of the bar until 2 o'clock. They didn't get home till 3 o'clock. And so I used to cut Wayne a lot of slack. But Wayne would come in and be like, "Oh, Jim, I did something bad. Oh, Jim, I did something bad." I'd be like, "What did you do this time, Wayne?" And like one time, Wayne rolls up his sleeve, and he's got a giant flaming skull tattoo that's all inky fresh on his forearm. He's like, "I'm going to have to wear long sleeve shirts. My mom told me to never get a tattoo, Jim, and I got a tattoo, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I got a tattoo." And I'm like, "Wayne, dude, I don't think you're going to get away with long sleeves for the rest of your life. She's going to see it. I think you might as well just tell her about it." And Wayne, it's not going to come as a surprise. So these are the sorts of things that happen, right? Every other week, I open the store and I got a Wayne story, and it's invariably something. So Wayne one morning comes in and he's like, "Oh, Jim." I was like, what's the matter now, Wayne? Now, the timing on this is very close. Okay, so this is before Achy Breaky Heart, and I'm going to pause the story here with Wayne because it was a few months later that Billy Ray Cyrus had recorded his single, and there was somehow buzz in Nashville about this single. And so, like, I don't know, 4 months after my Wayne story I'm about to tell you, Billy Ray gets signed, and Billy Ray records Achy Breaky Heart. And I think we know how it all went, but Wayne and Letitia, Tish, begin dating, and she gets pregnant with Miley, and then they get married, and Billy Ray's musical career takes off. I'm not saying anything about Billy Ray's music. I think it stands for itself. So anyway, So let's go back a few more months. So I open up the store one morning. Wayne comes in. I'm like, what's the matter, Wayne? He's like, oh, Jim, I did a bad thing. It's like, this is like a Chris Isaac song. What bad thing did you do, Wayne? I'm sort of curious. And he's like, oh, Jim, I made a mistake last night. I made a mistake. It was awful. I made a mistake. I was like, okay, what was your mistake, Wayne? It's like, Jim, I slept with Tish Finley last night. I was like, well, Wayne, you're an adult. You can do these things. You can do whatever you want. It's none of my business. And he's like, oh, Jim, I shouldn't have done it. I was like, Wayne, you don't have a girlfriend. Everything's fine. It's okay. You were adults. He's like, Jim. I'm like, what's the matter, Wayne? And he goes, Jim, she had our drummer last month. And I'm like, Wayne, stop. Like, don't, and of course, I knew that if you were in a band, you would be reasonably attractive to Tish. And I said, Wayne, you'd be smart just to like let this go, right? I'm sure it was a one-off and so on. And he's like, yeah, it's going to be a one-off. I can't do that again. And I was like, okay, Wayne. And I thought the subject was done, but I'm putting the drawers of the register and so on and so forth. And then Wayne comes up sheepishly and goes, but Jim. I was like, what, Wayne? It's like, Jim, she knew stuff. I was like, close the sharing window, Wayne. I don't need to hear anymore about Friday Night Adventures. I think we're good. And so I'm pretty confident that the last person that Tish Cyrus dated before she dated Billy Ray was my coworker, Wayne, the bassist in the Connie Dungs. So that's my Tish Cyrus story. And it's a doozy. And I'm cleaning up a lot. There's a lot of stuff I'm leaving out. But
I'm quite sure.
You can read between the lines. And Wayne was not ready for what got a hold of him. Last call at the singles bar, and they were serving up Wayne. So good for Wayne. But yeah.
Yeah, God bless.
Yeah, look at the comment. The comments came to a screeching halt. Everybody's
like sitting near their seats going,
what?
Good story.
What? Yes. So, but Wayne was a solid dude. So Wayne was a nice guy, but holy crap, Wayne was not ready for what happened to him that night and was still recovering the next day. So, let's see. How much to cover up Mike's Speedo? I don't think there is a conceivable amount of money. I think the Speedo just needs to live and breathe. I don't think we have.
It doesn't get covered.
Yes.
No.
Yeah. So let's see. What other news of the weird do we have? Oh, the Red Sonja movie. Somebody asked me about the Red Sonja movie.
Oh yeah, it was earlier.
There's a Red Sonja movie coming, and
I haven't seen the trailer.
The trailer's out. There's been a lot of versions of Red Sonja, right? Barry Windsor Smith's version of Red Sonja. She was fully clothed, and then Frank Thorne begat the chainmail bikini, which has been sort of a hallmark ever since. Different people have done different takes on Red Sonja, but the one that seems to have the most traction is she's got long flowing red hair. She is somewhat pneumatic, and she wears a tiny chainmail bikini. And dear gentle viewer, you can go out on the internet and you can go look up Red Sonja, and you'll get an eyeful and have a pretty good idea. Now, the person who's made an absolutely stellar career out of Red Sonja is Gail Simone. She's been writing the book. She's just done a bang up job. Some of her work with Red Sonja. The cliche with Red Sonja always was that she had been the victim of horrible people who did horrible things to her, and she would be with no man who couldn't best her in battle. There was a supernatural twist at one point during the Marvel runs that inferred that some goddess gave her ability to fight. That's come and gone. There's also, did Conan best her in battle? The less I know of that, the better off. But she has certainly over the last 10, 15 years had a revival. Gail Simone's a big part of that. They've thrown some real great money at getting artists to try to do a good job. But at the same time, as the want of comic book creators at this point, she's also in things like Red Sonja versus Mars Attacks, which I'm sorry, that's just a blatant cash grab, and even I have to say I'm pumping the brakes and calling a halt on that.
Right.
But the movie's been in the works for a long time, and I had seen who they had cast. I had seen who they had cast as the actress, and I understood that. You've got to try to find somebody who's going to do a good job acting. Now, Red Sonja has been made into a movie before with Brigitte Nielsen. It was terrible. If you watch it, the most maddening thing about it is that Arnold Schwarzenegger does his very, very best to try to be serious and add some gravitas, but Brigitte.
Oh, Brigitte Nielsen.
Yeah, she looked great in Beverly Hills Cops 2, but Red Sonja was not her thing.
No.
So the new Red Sonja. The trailer looks like good B-movie entertainment. Like, I can absolutely see this playing at a drive-in if drive-ins are a thing. How many people is it going to get to show up? Well, we all remember the Jason Momoa Conan movie, and when did that? Wherefore did it go? It pretty much went straight to video.
Yeah.
Is she the stereotypical Red Sonja that we know and love? Well, hold on, folks. I've got to give you an idea of what Red Sonja is pretty much about in the comic books at this point. Oh, there we go. Yeah, there's a chainmail bikini. And, well, you get the idea. Long flowing red hair and gravity-defying features. That's the phrase I'll use. Gravity-defying features. The actress is pretty close. I'd say she's 80-some% there.
Yeah.
See the silver bikini. You can chainmail bikini. I hope it's good. I do. I really hope it's good. As somebody who has always liked the character, the reason I fell in love with Red Sonja was the Marvel team-up issue with Red Sonja and the Amazing Spider-Man. And if you have never read the John Byrne issue of Marvel team-up that he drew, I can't imagine, but somebody said, I got this great idea. Let's team Spider-Man up with Red Sonja. And now some poor bastard has to figure out how to write this, and some poor bastard has to figure out how we're going to make this happen. Draw this. And so truthfully, like, Byrne did a great job. Byrne came up with that Sonja's nemesis, a necklace of his, has possessed a museum employee. And Peter Parker and Mary Jane Watson are in the museum when Kulangath or whoever starts to take over the museum and starts to work dark warlock magics. And where Peter thinks he's leaving MJ alone and goes to go change into Spider-Man, MJ strangely feels this drawing compulsion that makes her reach out to a sword from the Hyperborean age that's on display. And wait, I know you're going to be surprised to hear. It used to be Red Sonja's, and when she grabs the blade, she is magically transformed into Red Sonja. John Byrne should have gotten an award for the issue because it holds up. It's a great read. It's a fun read, and it introduces Red Sonja in a way that you're like, holy crap, I'm on board. And I fell in love with Red Sonja as like an 8 or 9 year old and was just like, ha ha. I hope the movie's as much fun as it looks. They seem to have a sense of humor. They seem to have a smart script. I'm truthfully rooting for it. I will probably pay to see it in the movie theater. I will probably regret paying to see it in the movie theater. But if it just pulls in 2 or 3 times what it cost to make it, I think they should be happy they got that many people. Now, granted, they're going to have to make some better trailers than the first one. The first one is okay. But come on, it's been a long time since we had a whole host of sword and sorcery movies, right? Hawk the Slayer, Kull the Conqueror. There's all these late 70s, early 80s. Like, I even remember the guys on motorcycles jousting called Night Riders.
Oh my God.
Oh my God, yes. Like, I stayed up late one Friday night. We had managed to somehow tune our television and could watch like a slightly staticky version of Spotlight or whatever it was. And I watched Night Riders one night. There was a time and a place for that. And there's still a time and a place for movies like this. So I'm hopeful. I don't think it's going to be a barn burner, but come on, right? You got to have a fun date night movie. And if you can convince your significant other to go see Red Sonja, have at it, right? Do yourself a solid, try to support something, because this is how we get our stuff made into movies. That's the only way we get our stuff made into movies. Now the other movie announcement, the other announcement this week that has me like, I've been burned before, I don't want to be burned again, is that they have announced that there's going to be an Edgar Rice Burroughs John Carter of Mars animated series coming.
Really?
And so it was announced last week, and I think they're very smart to do it as an animated series. That's genius. They might be able to get some funding for that. Fingers crossed. They have a showrunner. I don't know who the showrunner is. He's not familiar to me. But if you are a John Carter Warlord of Mars, if you're a John Carter Mars fan, if you're Edgar Rice Burroughs Mars fan, I would beseech you to go out on the internet and hunt down how many people remember Sky Captain and the World of Tomorrow. Loved that movie. Absolutely loved that movie. Can't believe they managed to pull it off. Absolutely thrilled about it. Love that movie. Have it in everything. I don't think there's a 4K version that's out, but if there is, I'm going to get it. Love Sky Captain, the World of Tomorrow. And the Conlons, the brothers, Carrie and his brother, that was a labor of love for them. And after they had put it in the can, they had a test reel. They had a test reel for their version of Edgar Rice Burroughs' Mars. If you go out on the YouTubes, you can find the link to Carrie Conran's Mars movie. And it was going to be animated. And it's amazing. Like, it's half finished. But holy shit, it sings to my Edgar Rice Burroughs Mars loving heart. I fell in love with the books in 1980. I read them all. My dad gave me the first one the same week that he gave me the first one, the week he was home from Malaysia. He was home from Malaysia and was getting ready to go to Fort Hood. I read Princess of Mars front to back. I started devouring the books. I got the last of the series for Christmas presents that year. I lived and breathed Mars. And I'm telling you right now, Carrie Conran's version would have been spectacular. But you need to go track that down, and you need to go watch that, because if you like Mars, it's perfect. All the little bits and pieces work. But this announcement about the animated series, I don't know. Do they love Mars the way Carrie Conran loved Mars, the way I love Mars, the way other people love Mars? I don't know. Will they take some stuff out to try to make it a more palatable to a wider audience? I'm sure they will.
Probably.
I expect that. I do. I genuinely expect that. But I'm a guy that when I hear the word Barsoom, like, my heart starts to sing. One of there's a couple of book series that I also have sort of on my list of things to talk about. And I wasn't sure I was going to get to this tonight, but I will. If you like alternate history, one of my favorite authors is S.M. Sterling. And so he had a long-running series called The Change, where something happens that causes, in 1993 or 94, that causes the world to essentially lose the ability to have electricity. Like, overnight, the world is plunged into the 18th, 19th century. Nothing mechanical works. The planes fall out of the skies, the whole 9 yards. At the same time, the island of Nantucket is sent back in time where everything does work, like electricity still works and so on and so forth. So there were 2 book series. There was one about the Nantucketers, and then there was one about what happened here after everything went to shit. But he's written a whole flock of these. The Draca series was this dystopian, horrific vision of what would happen if things went badly and your worst nightmare essentially took over South Africa and went from there. I'm not going to get into the particulars, but it's grim and it's as dystopian as anything you've ever read. The first one is Marching Through Georgia, and it's a gut punch. Every book in that series gets worse, and each one is, it's just tough stuff. But he also wrote a wonderful series about what happens after a climate change occurs after a meteorite swarm hits the upper hemisphere and causes tremendous floods. America's wiped out. It all happens in the 1800s. And there's a gigantic migration of British to India and take over the Raj. And there was one book and a short story in that. But he had a book series. He had a 2-book series called The Lords of Creation. And another one is Conquistador. It's a one-off, but it's really good. But he had a Lords of Creation, and so it was his tribute to the Edgar Rice Burroughs novel books that were all connected: Venus and Carson of Venus and John Carter of Mars, and so on and so forth. And so he wrote the Lords of Creation, and the first one was set on Venus. The second one, it's perfect in the halls of the Martian kings. Holy crap. If you like John Carter, if you like Barsoom, if you're an Edgar Rice Burroughs Mars fan, this is a love letter to that. And then his publisher at the time, I think it was Rock, said, yeah, we're good. We don't need any more books in this series. And he's been picked up by those books have been picked up by a new publisher. And the first thing they said was, we want a 3rd book. You always said you had a 3rd book. Give us a 3rd book. And out of the gate, it exploded, and it's done really, really well. There's maybe some talk about a 4th book. We'll see if that happens. But he's got 2 books on the Amazon bestseller list, 2 series on the Amazon bestsellers list right now. He has the Lords of Change, which is this series that's set in sort of an Edgar Rice Burroughs Mars world. And then he has a really interesting series of books. He's got 2 out. The new one is Winds of Fate. It's Make the Darkness Light. That's the name of the series. And it's in modern day. It's initially starts out in modern day. And there's a former Harvard professor who is in the U.S. military, and 4 other people are brought to Vienna, Virginia by a known physicist / scientist, and they get to his complex, and he has all these supplies queued up, and he says, I'm sending you back in time to save the human race from nuclear annihilation. And they're laughing until the city they're in is targeted and an ICBM is on the way as the birds are starting to fly. And so it essentially is a Chinese Western Allies conflict. And the first book is the 5 people and all the supplies go back in time to ancient Rome, the time of Augustus. And the first novel, really good. The second one's just now out. And I don't want to spoil it, but it's a new series, and Sterling's just knocking them out, and they're really good. But if you like alt history, my dad used to call it historical porn. If you like alt history, S.M. Sterling. It stands for Steve something Sterling. Sterling.
Check it out.
They're all really, really, really good. I don't know. Why don't you do your 5 albums of choice, since Mike isn't with us?
Oh, you know what? I haven't purchased a CD in close to 20 years. So everything I do is streaming with XM. So I don't even listen to albums anymore. I just listen to classic rock, whether it's classic rewind or vinyl. So I couldn't even tell you which albums. But for me, back in the day, it was always, God help me, Fleetwood Mac, Journey.
You are a product of the 70s, my friend.
I am. So here, I'll give you an interesting story about that.
Yes,
So
please.
I worked retail before I became a cop. And I worked in Stern's department store in the electronics department. Got the job when I was 19, and I was handpicked, me and another, and the manager that picked us out of the 40 people being trained for Christmas help was, I think you're going to work out pretty well, even though you're extremely shy. You're going to get past that. So believe it or not, I'm a shy person. All right. So I'm there for about 2 years, working part time. Phone rings one evening. I answer, and it's a woman. She's asking me questions about tape decks. And we sold tape decks and audio, and I'm trying to tell her, well, what do you need? Because we're a department store. We basically have shitty tape decks. She sounded like she needed something decent. And then she goes to me, well, what kind of music do you listen to? Now, this is 87, 88. I'm like, oh, I listen to WNEW, classic rock. And I used to listen to WAPP until it changed formats last week. Well, this was a DJ from the classic rock at WAPP, recently fired, and now I guess looking to put together a demo tape, which is why she was calling about tape decks.
Okay.
And then she goes to me, well, how old are you? I'm like, 22, 20, whatever it was, 22. She's like, oh my God, you're with that radio voice. You're such a baby. There's so much I could teach you. I hung up because I didn't know what the fuck to say at that point. Excuse my language, folks. I was 23. She had to be in her 50s, and I panicked. Hung up. She never came in to buy anything, as far as I know, and I never got a follow-up. But that was, I was always a classic rock kid growing up. And it wasn't because my parents played it. My mother liked country, but I always liked the classic rock.
So along those lines, last week, HBO aired a documentary, the first half of a two-part documentary made by Tom Hanks and his Playtone production company on Billy Joel. And so it covers his early teenage years. It covers, God, I didn't know he was in a metal band, but I will never forget that album cover. But it talks about Piano Man and The Stranger and what happens after that. And it cuts off right about the time that Glass Houses came out.
Okay. Which
was my first album with Billy Joel. I talked to a friend of mine who his first Billy Joel album was The Stranger, which is, it's a hell of an album. It really, really, really is. And it's an amazing look at his creative, his creative acumen, his discipline, and so on and so forth. So if you have HBO Max, if you're remotely interested in Billy Joel, I would really, 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 really recommend watching this. It's the first was 2 hours. The second half is going to be 2 hours. The second half premieres on Friday, but you still got time to watch the first half, and it looks astounding. It's just amazing. I'm sure they're going to cover, they've covered his first marriage. In the first half, they covered his first marriage. If you didn't know this, he was in a rock and roll band with his best friend, and then his friend and his wife had a son together, and then she fell in love with Joel, and he fell in love with her. And so at one point, Joel goes to his friend and says, hey, I fell in love with your wife. I don't know what to do about this. And rightfully, his friend punched him in the face. And they had a very hard conversation, and they all three sort of split off. And then the fella and his wife divorced. And then the three of them didn't talk to each other. And then Joel and the woman started to talk. And then they got married. And they were married for the better part of, I think, more than a decade. And she was his manager during the 70s. So she was his manager for Piano Man. She was his manager for The Stranger. She was his manager for Glass Houses. And she oversaw all of that. And then she said, enough's enough, and I'm walking away. And you know, I'm like all of us. You hear these songs, you know these songs, and when you look at The Stranger, and you look at how many amazing songs are on that, the record company said, we want to choose which single comes out first, and she said, fine, I get to choose the second single. They're like, fine, and they picked some song that got to, I think, number 8, and then she picked She's Always a Woman to Me, and boom, you know, it was over. And you just can't realize, you didn't realize how much that music, how much that album just poured through that part of the 70s. And
Oh yeah.
you know, all this. So it's good fun. If you like,
Gonna
if
have
you're
to.
interested in Billy Joel, you should absolutely watch it. It's on HBO Max.
All right, that sounds like a plan because, I mean, the Ramones I saw so many times I couldn't even count. But
Oh,
Billy
quit
Joel's the-
bragging.
But
Quit
Billy Joel's the only other artist I saw more than once. I saw him twice, once solo and once with Elton John. Both times at Madison Square Garden. So that was
Well, so there's a little bit of a discussion in the comments. There's sort of a raging discussion about images and so on and so forth. And I'll tell you what I've heard from artists. I'll tell you what I know, and I'll tell you what I've heard. I had a conversation with an artist one time about what do you see as a tribute? What do you see as quote unquote stealing? What do you? And he said, listen, you know, art regurgitates art, like art pulls things in and so on and so forth. But there are limits, right? There are limits to what companies can accept in art that's made for their products. And so the classic example that I can think of. There was an artist named Lawrence Allen Williams. He illustrated a ton of cards for Wizards of the Coast. He did, I think he did some Magic cards, but his big claim to fame was that he did a shit ton, a colossal shit ton of Jihad cards, the vampire collectible cards.
Oh, okay.
And so he did a number of these, and finally, after the Jihad cards came out, the game came out, and so on and so forth, somebody reached out to White Wolf and said, did you know? And they were like, no, we didn't. And what he had been doing is he would record episodes of Baywatch, and he would freeze his VCR, and then he would put tracing paper up on the television screen, and he would sketch whoever he had frozen. So, like, you can go through the cards, and if you know Baywatch, you would be able to pick out, hey, that's Erica Alanik in season 4, episode 6 at this point in time, right? And so I don't know if they had somebody go through, but essentially they figured out that all of his illustrations were based on screen capture, tracing over screen captures. Okay, not cool. Draw it yourself. I think Lawrence Allen Williams is a very talented artist. I don't know why he was tracing over. I don't care. If you look at the early Judges Guild stuff, there's the long-standing joke in the game community was that it was they had the Critics' Choice Awards that used to be handed out at Origins that literally was a spoof of the entire industry. It ceased in 1993 when somebody didn't react well to a joke, and it came to a screeching halt. But they used to have the Bob's Lightbox Award, because if you look at all the early Judges Guild stuff, a lot of it is an image traced and put into products. I am not surprised to see this raging discussion about a picture and so on and so forth in the Player's Handbook, the second edition Player's Handbook. But in the end, we're having a discussion about a product that got made in 1988, 89.
Yeah.
And we're just now having this chat. And all of the people involved who made the decision and so on and so forth are not involved in this process anymore. And I'm not sure what good it does to sort of rip open the...
Yeah, and besides, today it's going to be AI is going to be the issue.
Yes.
So actually, this is a good place for us to end it.
Yes, perfect.
So, folks, thanks to Mike for dropping in literally, and then dropping out. We do appreciate it. Jim, thank you for today. As always, good luck at Gen Con. So probably no Jim next week, but probably Bad Mike. Who the hell knows?
Yeah.
Be safe, be well, and God bless. Roll those dice, roll them well. I may or may not be in a live stream tomorrow night with Tom and Don. I'm going to be in a 10-hour drive, round trip, so we shall see. All right, folks. Good night.